Hey, welcome to tonight's live stream. We're going to be doing a flight sim economy, sort of. I'm just going to reposition my plane up to Bradley Field. I'm going to use pilot to ATC to direct traffic. The flight is going to start at Nantucket, KACK, and we're going to end up at KBDL. So anybody that's tuning in, thanks. I'm going to start getting the chat window open up in here in just 1 second, and we'll get this bird cranked up. Don't know where I put my Twitch link. Ah, there we go. All right, the chat box will be up. We're going to crank this thing up. Going to hide some of this OBS. Everything's looking good. Let's start up the plane, eh? Then we'll get our ATIS and get some weather report. If you haven't seen my stream before, I'm flying the Airfoil Lab Cessna 172. I use from PI Engineering X keys. I have a set of, I think it's a 20 button array. So I just program in extra keys so I don't have to touch my keyboard as much. Battery on. You can light on. Nobody's around. Looking good. Fuel pump. 1, 2, 3. That usually does it. Correct the throttle. Say a little prayer. Amen, amen. Hey, yeah. Fires right up tonight. Alternator on and radio stack. Alright, let's see. We'll go check in over here with the pilot to ATC. Frequencies. ATIS 127.5. Gotta let the radios tune in. All right. We said 127.5. In pilot to ATC, we can click. Let's see. It doesn't bring it up on your screen, but the does it show here now? Yeah, there it is. So you can set the pilot to ATC, the pop-up menus come out.
MEM information Tango. 1300 Zulu weather. Wind calm. Visibility more than 10. Sky conditions 20,000 scattered. 35,000 scattered. Temperature 14. Dew point -10. Altimeter 2992. Arriving runways 0633. Departing runways 0633. Advised on initial contact you have Tango.
Alright, that's our weather information. Winds are calm. Sweet. Flip that for a second. I'll check our altimeter. I'll move this off of here. Looks like 29902. It concurs with the elevation of the field. Taking off on 06 and 03. For that, I use Sky Vector. So what I do, I pop up my Nantucket map. And so it looks like 06 or 33. Hopefully we depart 06. The taxiway is a lot easier. It looks like we go Juliet Echo. So now we'll contact, I'll file my flight plan. I think I forgot to do that. Alright, it validated, it's fine. I'm going to just check the ATIS one more time in case that has any bearing on pilot to ATC.
Nantucket MEM Information Tango. 1300 Zulu weather. Wind calm. Visibility more than 10.
Alright, it's going to be the same. Alright, so now we're going to go to clearance delivery. Let's see if we can get our clearance for a VFR flight, because this is squawking 1200. Clearance delivery 119.37. 119. Ooh, got somebody landing right over here. Sweet. So gotta love it. I run typically 11 AI airplanes. Clearance delivered. See, I'm just gonna use the voice command here and see if I can get it. Alright, gotta wait for a little break here. I got some background chatter programmed in for Bradley Field and Nantucket and Boston Center. Excuse me one second. Alright, should be back. Alright. Good evening, Nantucket. Cessna 12 Bravo, ready to copy VFR clearance. Cleared VFR 2 Kilo Bravo. Delta Lima, maintain 4,500 feet. Squawking 3314. Departure on 126.1. Cessna 12 Bravo. So whenever the long readbacks are sometimes complicated, I'm going to use the say it feature. You'll hear me say that a lot. Alright, looks like runway 24. I'm going to use a say it feature. Alright, I'm going to look at the airport diagram. Runway 24, it looks like we go, we can follow the apron. We could follow all the way around. It didn't give me any hold short instructions. Alright. I'm going to lower the background chatter just a little bit. Okay, 2-4. I'll contact ground and tell them we're ready for ready to taxi. It's on 13250. Flop. Nantucket ground. Cessna 12 Bravo, ready to taxi. Cessna 12 Bravo, ready to taxi. Okay, I see what happened. I was looking at the stuff thinking they already given my taxi instructions, but here they are. You heard them. I'm going to say it Taxi to runway 24 via taxiways Echo. Hold short runway 15 and runway 24, Cessna 12 Bravo. Looks like I got the readback correct. Pilot ATC, we can go to taxi routes. So where we are here, we're going to go over here to the right, hold short, take off. Before we do that, I'm going to, that was a tiny mistake. I wanted to put in my destination here. So we are going to H. F. D. Sorry about that coughing here. I'm going to start my flight sim economy. We're just going to reposition my plane tonight, not taking any cargo. Taxi light on and brake. Cleared to cross 15, Cessna 12 Bravo. Yeah, Pilot ATC seems to jump ahead and clears you pretty early. I don't know if that's just part of the way it works because there's no traffic landing and it's just cleared across, or if it just automatically clears you to cross. Oh no, I did have some passengers in that. I do want to cancel that. Alright, back to flight sim economy for a second. I was going to make a trip, but it was going to be too long for tonight. Geez. Contact tower on 118.3, Cessna 12 Bravo. Right, 118.3. 118.3. Just going to adjust my flight sim economy here. Cancel selected assignments. Alright, my plane is still rented. Alright, just repositioning. I'm going to pull up to the hold short line. Sorry, I got a frog in my throat tonight. We'll do a quick run up, then we'll call. Alright, brake on, taxi light off, landing light on, mixture, trim for takeoff, 1800 RPMs. Check the left mag, back to both, right mag, actually that's the left mag, back to both. Alright, that checks out. GPS is set. We are in GPS mode. Hey, there's a nice takeoff. Excuse me. We said we're going to go 4,500. And gauges are green. Plenty of fuel. Cessna 12 Bravo ready for departure, runway 24. I'll be with the chat in 1 second. Tower on 118.3. I think that's a mistake. Cessna 12 Bravo, ready for departure. Cleared for takeoff, runway 24, squawking 3314, Cessna 12 Bravo. Oop, missed a step there. Alright, let's get this off the ground. I do not use any SATEC equipment. I basically have a CH Eclipse yoke and pedals. And then I use the Pi Engineering X keys to kind of simplify the keyboard. And I mostly had those because I do photography, so I use them as keyboard shortcuts for Photoshop. Wouldn't necessarily go out and buy another set for this, but I know other people that have used them. Rotate. Basically, what I started practicing with, I just started to try to get the repetition down of just doing pattern work. You know, that was it's enough of a challenging for the grammars. And I went back and forth a little bit with Dave, the developer. I was having, you know, a bunch of trouble, and I think it still needs a little bit of work as far as adding some to the realism. But when you ask when you're ready for departure, you have to say remain in pattern, and the key is it says, you know, report when you're on final. You have to say your call sign on final for touch and go when you're on final, and then it will clear you for the option. If you don't do that, you're going to be cleared to land, and then it doesn't do what you want it to do. That's pretty funny. Photography and flying. There's a couple other guys on some of the other X-Plane forums. Chris Smith and another guy, Daniel Venter. They're also photographers. My website is Dan, D-A-N, and it's R-O-G-G-I, photography.com. Got a wedding tomorrow and a small one Saturday. Today, GPS mode. I'm going to hit the autopilot. I want to put myself on the correct leg. Move. Clear that. I am on the correct leg, okay. And nav. 600 feet a minute. And I'm going to arm it. It's D-A-N-R-O-G-G-I. I can type it out for you here. And I always check my heading. This always confuses the bejesus out of me with this GPS. There we go. Where's my line? I don't know why. Kind of flying rogue here then. Activate, enter. Okay, there we go. Yeah, I've studied with pretty much every major photographer in the country. I'm actually a PPA Master of Photography and Photographic Craftsman. I've been in the PPA Loan Collection book once or twice. But that's me. Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I picked up Pilot to ATC is nobody else was really doing it. I found the program to be helpful. Some people are like, just jump on, go to Pilot Edge. The rate of speed which they talk, trying to develop an ear, trying to get the confidence of the procedures a little bit better. This has really helped me. Departure on 126.1 Cessna 12 Bravo. Yeah, I'm just still learning all this whole program still. I just reprogrammed in some new sounds so I don't have to listen to the same air traffic control chatter that I've been listening to. Cessna 12 Bravo at 3,400. Yeah, as much as my favorite line is, as much as I like trees and rocks, I have a much harder time getting them to pay. Um, Kids, babies, weddings, they throw money at you. So that's kind of where my marketing has been driven to. Lean this back a little bit. Photography just takes a bunch of time. Joining camera groups like professional groups in your area if you have them, super beneficial to my career. Yeah, I also do tech support at the college around here. Level 1 tech support. I'm not a computer science major. This is one thing that drives me crazy about the autopilot likes to stall even though I'm at a slow climb rate. It's almost like I have to reset it. Yeah, my BATSIM experience is really, I just kind of have, from using Pilot to ATC, I've just gotten comfortable, using the kind of remain in pattern, doing my pattern work, landing. I try to find the small airports that are still within BATSIM control that typically don't have anybody else flying at them or very few. This way, I think I can be a little bit looser, make some mistakes. I haven't been yelled at yet. Yeah, 2 monitors, super helpful. Not sure I really want to get a VR headset. After seeing X-Plane at the Flight Sim convention, it's super cool for VFR flying. Uh, so right now I'm using 2 monitors, and I have the OBS stream stuff on, the Pilot to ATC stuff on. So I don't know if that will really translate to being able to use the same kind of equipment uh, and still do this. But it was really cool. The depth perception was amazing. Like when you were landing, you kind of almost got that sinking depth perception. You're coming in closer. It was a lot of fun. I'm online. Yeah, no, photography as a hobby is a wonderful thing. Um, and partly the economy has been brutal in photography. A business partner haven't gone up on prices in years. Um, there's been a flood of people coming into the market, and it's super saturated with photographers everywhere. So even when you're good, it's hard to, people don't want to hear about the price because of the economy. They don't care how good you are. They just want to have someone there. So it's been a tough upsell. That's why I have the part-time job working at the college doing tech support. But yeah, no, keep it as a hobby. I think it's a great thing to do. Um, and some of these professional organizations have like 1 day seminars where you can go watch a portrait photographer, learn a little bit about lighting, and your work will improve immensely. Flip off the landing light. Let's see, what else am I forgetting? That's good. That's good. That's good. If you have the Airfoil Labs, I don't know how many people know where the Easter egg is, but it's under the COM 3 button, the little hula girl. I know everybody with the default plane, everybody looks for little Austin in the glove compartment, but the hula girl, COM 3. Yeah, that's it. The phones, as much as I love them, it is. You don't get any really casual sales. Like, you're not going to really sell something to the grandmother. You're not going to sell to like an aunt or an uncle. They're just going to have their own camera. They're going to do pictures that are good enough. Um, and so, again, it's just one more piece that's been taken out of the business equation. Boston Center on 12875, Cessna 12 Bravo. Let's see, back to here. So let's see, I'll use the pilot to ATC feature here. Let's see, it was 12875. And see, that's the kind of stuff that this has helped me with. I can hear the frequency, and I don't have to think about it as much. Cessna 12 Bravo at 4,500. Yeah, I've been with Pilot ATC. I've been starting to do more towered to towered flights. Uh, I also use SkyVector for my main for the route planning. Let's see if I don't know if you've seen that. My SkyVector, yeah, drag a. So pretty much when you plan a flight in Pilot to ATC, it requires that you have at least one in-between waypoint. So I started here in Nantucket, and I picked out the Hartford HFD VOR, and then have the northward turn. Um, so that's where I put that stuff in here in Pilot to ATC. Um, I tried doing earlier tonight, I did an ILS approach, which I hadn't really fully figured it out. But I did pick up the glide slope and was able to guide myself in using the ILS, which was pretty cool. For me, it's the visual part. I look at it on the map first, so I'm trying to learn like the map part and like look at the airspaces to plan my route. So I'm not going through any like Bravo or Charlie spaces until I get to Hartford. Yeah, with Pilot ATC, I'm still just scratching the surface. There's so many parts to it, and I think as I learn about flying more, uh, and as I get better and more comfortable with the situations, I'll start using probably more of the stuff, like using the SIDS and the stars and uh, being able to read or interpret how to get an instrument departure. I was practicing the Boston Lobster 2, um, and that almost train wrecked. You have to be pretty quick with the practice of it. I think there's a someone's. I think what people are using is for the SADIC problem. I think they're either using the SADIC software or I think it's SUICP. I think it's that. It could be the. Um, where's the other one that I use for Squawk Box? This one right here. XUIPC. One of those two, I think, is like a third-party um, controller, or software that controls that stuff. Yeah, I haven't tried like the auto planner up here to see what it would do. Still a lot of buttons. Even though I've had it for probably 6 months now, it's getting the time to try specific things. Uh, like the approach button, I don't even know. Like the weather button just puts weather up here. The approach, I'm not even sure what that does. Maybe it activates, I think on the screen when I get closer to the destination airport, it just changes stuff and it highlights it in yellow. Uh, I'm sure like with any auto-generated thing, uh, you could always email the developer and ask them if it's supposed to be crazy like that for some um, true pilot purpose, or if it's just because it's just kind of picking something because it likes it. Uh, so I think if I were actually to fly this route, this is probably how I would like to take it if I was a real life pilot. I don't know if I'd have to go around, how far outside. I think as long as you're over pattern altitude up in here, I don't think there's any restrictions. Yeah, I'm trying to work myself up into like somewhat of a tutorial mode. Um, so when I started tonight, basically, I think I was cold and dark. Went through the startup procedure that I do. I don't do as detailed of a checklist. At the one that I've seen that probably has the best tutorials is Uncertified Pilot. He goes all the way through all the different stuff. He's done them so well. Um, I think I would almost just watch those. Now the part is it's the second part of your question. Like startup people have great startup stuff, and then filing the flight plan um, is basically what I with Pilot to ATC. You just type in up here KACK. One of these menu boxes pops up. You hit enter. You pick your waypoint. you type in HFD, enter, and then add one more waypoint. So you hit add waypoint, KBDL, enter. I hit the validate button, and then I hit the file button. That's all I've been able to. That's all that I've done with it so far. Um, I've added in. I've tried to put in an approach, and that sort of worked, but I'm still not really that comfortable with it. But um, real life flight plan seems to have a lot more. Let's see, I meant by your flight plan. Yeah, no, I'm sure as I do these, I'll probably the next one. I might even just repeat this flight, or maybe even make it a shorter. Maybe just go to Providence. Um, so go to like another towered Class C airport. Because I think you are like in the same situation that I was, is that there wasn't a lot of general aviation pilot to ATC tutorials. Yeah, I think if the next one that I do, I don't know if I'll be able to do one tomorrow morning before the wedding, um, but I will do one where I talk out loud. Uh, you'll be able to see all my mistakes. So about now, I'm going to check and see whereabouts I'm at. Still pretty far away from my first checkpoint. Yeah, one thing I noticed too with Pilot ATC, when the chart, the SAT, the terrain map, those seem to kind of glitch out on me if I tried to switch them between flights. I don't know if it's because I had too many things open, but there was definitely something that caused it to kind of like hesitate and to glitch. Yeah, don't take mine fully for being correct. I'm sure a real world pilot's probably just shaking their head going, oh, he's doing that wrong and that wrong. Um, but I'm doing what you're doing. I watch a lot of videos, pretty much most afternoons whenever I get some free time. Um, I just watch the live streams. I watch John Fly. I watch also in the Netherlands Avanak. He's doing a nice series. Uncertified Pilot, I think, has been fantastic. On YouTube, WEH, that guy's got some great videos. They're edited nicely. Yeah, mistakes are definitely learning lessons, and that's one of the reasons why I like the simulation. Uh, you can take it, I think, as deep as you want. The guys that make these tremendous sim pits, fully decked out with making all their own instruments, and um, that's a whole nother level of like learning. Yeah, the internet's really helped a lot with the learning too. If you go to uncertifiedpilot.com or .net, he's got a great checklist. Actually, I have it here. Someday I'm going to get a webcam, maybe next week. And his is super, super detailed, and his is basically from making mistakes. He had enough followers that were pilots, and they said, no, whoa, wait, stop, you got to check this first, and you got to check this. And then he also built into his checklist, all right, now that we're getting ready to go, flight sim economy, is that checked? Okay, check. And then he built, those extra things into his checklist. I did see those Navigraph charts. They look pretty incredible. I'm not in a position, or I don't know if I'm going to be. Maybe next year I might be nerdy enough to take the jump and to start wanting to have the most up-to-date stuff. But right now, because I'm learning, and Pilot to ATC seems to match up data-wise with X-Plane. Like some of the approaches that I experimented with matched up, so it wasn't like they were out of date and not useful. Uh, I would love to, at some point, get a 4-flight subscription, a Navigraph subscription, and take it to like the furthest. Um, you know, go a little deeper into the experience, I guess. Yeah. So once someone just came out with a nice tutorial just on using the GPS and how they on or excuse me, the autopilot and how they did it. Um, you, they approached it a little bit differently than I've approached it, and some of their stuff I'm like, oh, you know what, that makes some sense. Instead of typing in, I think it was instead of arming the autopilot, I think they were just using the up and down buttons and the altitude hold rather than letting the airplane stop at 4,500. And I forget why they were doing that. But at the time, it seemed to make sense for them and made a little bit of sense. I have to go back and watch it again and then, you know, take it for what it's worth. It's a lot of years of photography. I started photographing professionally when I was about 20. I got together with, met a PPA Master of Photography. Said, hey, come along. So for basically 3 years, I just took photos. I knew how to use a camera when I got there. I knew f-stop, shutter speeds, and what all the results were. Didn't know how to load medium format film. I'd come from a 35 millimeter background. So I learned how to load my RZ67s, RBs, 645s, Hasselblads, um, and then from learning from her, continued on going to the different PPA schools and studying with um, all different photographers. I studied with, for wedding photography, I studied with Hanson Fong 3 times. Uh, Amazing. Still can't probably replicate anything that he does nearly as well. Um, but from him, I learned the concept of making making their bodies in balance. So kind of taking away that is like one of the lifetime things that I have always incorporated to everything that I do. Is trying to have body sizes, head sizes in balance, so having people kind of lean forward or backwards, and um, just subtly moving them just to make them look proportionately balanced. It's its own fun skill set. Yeah, thanks. Uh, and one of the fun things I tell my clients that the pictures are always a collaboration. Um, I can't I can draw up the play, like metaphorically, like going to football. I can draw up the play, but if I don't have you guys on the same page doing the same thing, we can't score a touchdown. We all have to kind of be of the same mindset. So when the clients are enthusiastic and uh, you make great synergy together. And when there's one of the parts of the client, typically like the guys, if they're not into it, um, he's like, oh, we're doing photos, and he might not understand what we're trying to get to. It took a while to overcome that hurdle, to getting both people to really trust you. Let's see, my lifetime, airplane experiences. I went up one time with my grandfather when I was pretty small. And then I went up when I was about 25 in a Tobago. Super fun. Started getting a little motion sickness, but again, we were probably only 700, 800 feet over, uncontrolled airspace, doing some laps around a lake. Um, I could feel like, whoa, here we go. So that's my only small airplane experience. I do have a friend whose brother is a CFI, so as I go, if I start getting stumped, I'll have a resource to go to. Yeah, if you it seems like for 100, $150, you can go get one of those discovery flights at usually at your local airfield. Uh, Probably be a lot of fun. I'm afraid to get into it a little bit because I would just want to just the money aspect of it. Everybody reports it's around $8,000 to $10,000 to get your private pilot's license. It's like I'm not in that position where I want to get addicted to flying. I also play Battlefield 1. That's my other game. I was playing that earlier this afternoon. My kids laughed. They're like, you just go up in that airplane and you put the autopilot on. I'm like, well, yeah, that's part of it. Yeah, simulation is way less. You can buy the mother of all supercomputers. Boston Center on 124.85, Cessna 12 Bravo. I'm going to use the Say It feature because that little readback does not look right. That's one thing I noticed, like when you speak it back, if it looks wrong, you just use the Say It feature. Because once it gets out of its computer loop, it's not happy. 124.85. 124. Cessna 12 Bravo, level at 4,500. Oh, that's going to be a super fun monitor. I bet that's going to look great. I run like two 22-inch monitors is what I think these are. One of them is calibrated for photography. The other one looks a little more saturated. So about 30 minutes to the waypoint. Where'd you find the monitor? Did you get that like at a local place or did you get that on like Amazon? Where'd it go? Yeah, actually that's pretty funny you have a Mac. I have a Mac sitting next to my PC. Um, yeah, mine's a 2009 quad core. I put in one of those, it was one of the biggest graphics cards I could find that was dual. I forget the name of it now. Um, but it's a 3 gig card. It really improved my system. No, that should be a pretty good flight too. Is that Newark to Boston? Couple hours. Yeah, Newark to Boston. Gonna use Pilot to ATC for that. There's nothing, you can't really mess it up. The worst case you do, you just fly your route or you just stop somewhere else. I think if you do it VFR and then you just get um, the taxi routes in Pilot to ATC, even if you don't follow the exact route, I haven't gotten in trouble with it. So even I'll use the taxi route feature. Uh, so I'll look at it on SkyVector. I'll get the map. Pilot ATC is sorta, somewhat, kinda accurate on some of the maps and sorta not on some of them. Uh, so then I try to figure out where it's telling me to go and kind of modify the route to get to the runway. And then when I get to the runway, usually I say I'm holding short, and then I'll switch over to tower for taking off. It hasn't glitched on me that way. So it seems like it's got some forgiveness in different parts of the program. And I think if you do a VFR departure, you don't have to, I don't think you have to put in like a standard instrument departure. That's why I'm kind of doing smaller airports. Like if I go out of Boston, like I practiced that Lobster 4 or whatever it is when I was trying to do some flight sim economy to Maine and, you know, piloting the plane, getting the dials set up. The first time I did it, I just tried to hand fly it. That was pretty much a disaster. The second time I did it I programmed in the GPS with the departure. Much better. Yeah, I think any flights that are like for for short flight practice. This one's probably a little bit long, but I wanted to reposition my plane up to Hartford. The story is Flight Sim Economy was giving me these passengers from Block Island to Westerly in Rhode Island. It was like an 8-minute flight. I was making $400 a flight, 3 passengers back and forth, and all of a sudden they stopped. It stopped in the populating them there. So now whenever I'm at Block Island, my money tree is kind of dried up, and now I'm not really sure where to reposition my plane. I can put it in Boston, but then um, it's it's a little busier than what I want. So that's why I've been trying to keep it at smaller airports. VFR is visual flight rules. So basically, you're going to be going lower, where IFR is instrument flight rules. If you go IFR, they're probably going to assign you one of the SID, the standard instrument departure. And so that's where you have to know, like, you have to have all the right charts. You have to, it's a lot more precision. It's basically you fly all the different headings. And for pilot simplicity and air traffic simplicity, um, they kind of route people like with standard stuff so that the air traffic controller knows what you're doing and you know what the route is, so he can trust that you're going to fly like it's called the Lobster 4. Basically, it's like a northbound departure. Um, in this way, it keeps everybody separated. It keeps everybody you know what each other is supposed to be doing. So in case there's deviation from it, then that's where there could be trouble. So there's different departures for different runways and winds, and um, so VFR is much simpler. Basically, you're going to get a taxi route instructions. Go over to you read it back. You do your hold shorts at the different runways that you got to cross. Uh, Once you gain 1,000 feet or so in altitude, uh, then you can kind of start making your first turn towards what you want to go, where you want to go. Yeah, from what I understand, I think if you're in like a Bravo airport like Boston, um, you might need a SID. I think that's one of the things that kind of ramps up in the big ones. Or I think in real life you're going to want to use the SID. I think in pilot to ATC, it's just going to classify you as a VFR departure, and it's not going to, I don't think, look at it as so rigid like they would in real life. So I think that's part of the neat part of pilot to ATC. You're learning, but it's not that similar rigidness. Um, I think if you're trying to take a Cessna in the JFK with all those jets, there's no way they're going to let you in there. Um, I think Boston has sometimes that they will. I just had a massive drop in frames. That's really weird. Must be a scenery load right here. Dropped down to like 4 frames a second. Yeah, you won't need a. I haven't used, like I said, I've only used that one departure to practice out of Boston. It was the Lobster 4. I just go VFR. So I'll be up here in the flight plan. I'll hit VFR. Add a waypoint. Enter. Add add my starting airport. Enter. Add a waypoint like the VOR. Enter. Add my destination airport. Enter. as I grow, I'm gonna try to make it more complicated. Maybe do like 2 or 3 different VORs, or I think it will even do. Um, I want to start to be able to follow the Victor Airways. So when we go over to um, like in Sky Vector, you can do these routes. That's your plan. Oh, it changed me. Um, so you can actually, this is the preferred flight plan. These are the highways of the sky. And this is generally what you're going to follow. So if you were coming out of Newark down here, I'm not sure. See, this is still some of the stuff that I'm learning. You'd probably have to hit like the VOR, like up at Teterboro. This has got me coming back from Boston. So you'd probably have to depart. Where are you? Newark. So what it would probably have you go, right click, plan, come up this way, probably plan you up to something like this, to Bridgeport. So you're supposed to try to follow these, I believe, kind of whenever possible. And then this is the stuff that I'm learning. There's like altitude minimums and restrictions. It's all still mind-boggling. See, then if you follow this one, you can go to Madison here. So it keeps you on the Victor 475 here. And then you can come up to this Victor to Norwich. And then you could probably make the Victor 16 into Boston. So the plan might look something like that. I don't know how true or accurate that would be. But I think if you're trying to follow the Victor flight paths. So you got a football game going on tonight. So there's probably some special thing that you kind of have to avoid that for NFL security. Yeah, this is Cessna flying at its finest here. Probably crank this up. It's seemingly taking forever, and it's light wind. This is something that they did not do really at the flight sim convention that I put in the notes. Air traffic control flight levels determined 2 ways. I believe if you're flying VFR and you're headed on anything to the east, you use odd altitudes. So you do like 3,000, 5,000, 7,000. And then because you're VFR, it's odd plus 500. So you'd be 3,500. I believe anytime you're traveling to the west, they're even. It's like 2, 4, 6,000 of altitude, and then you tack 500 on it when you're VFR. So right now I planned on going, I'm pretty sure west is even. That's why I did 4,500. I learned all this from watching videos. And technically, flight level isn't considered, it's not considered flight level until you're over 18,000 feet. Then I think you're flight level. I think up to 18,000 feet, you're still, you wouldn't call it flight level, you would just call it altitude. Like flight levels, you typically reserve for like the stuff that flies high, pressurized like jets. Where did I learn? Um, if if you're familiar with, let's see if I can remember there. I should know this. Be this link here. So this is a group that I've been trying to get more active in. They actually start. They're one of the ones that are the primary sponsors of the Flight Sim convention. It's Boston Area Virtual Air Traffic Controllers. They have a ton of great videos that explain everything from ground procedures, airspaces, um, tons of great stuff, um, which is that. And then actually, if you find on YouTube, um, Pilot Edge, their video series are great. They're long though. I wish they chunked them down to like half-hour segments. But some of their videos are 2 hours long. They're just talking about airspace. It's like if I was sitting there, I'd be falling asleep. Never mind trying to watch it from home. So some of those I've learned a ton, and I'm just kind of passing along the information that I've learned. They should. Those are all on YouTube. Um, yeah, Boston area you should be able to find those on YouTube, and I think it's the Pilot Edge. Um, I'm almost sure all those are on YouTube. I'm pretty sure that's where I got them all. Boston Virtual, that group, you actually have to submit like a little essay and fill out a big form why you want to be a member before they'll let you join. They're really trying to keep it on the serious side of piloting. I met a bunch of their guys at the convention. Super nice, super knowledgeable. Yeah, this detailed part of the map, this is where most of the submarines are made in the U.S., down in here, Groton, New London. It's pretty cool. You can go down on the first nuclear submarine, the Nautilus and stuff. That's directly over our left wing. Down in there. Geez, haven't, you can, send it to directly to me. My email's typically not that much of a secret. Yeah, I'll be up for a while tonight. The girlfriend, future wife is out. Bradley approach on 123.9 or 5. Yes, yeah, I messed that up. Approach on 123.9 or 5, Cessna 12 Bravo. I messed something up here, hang on. Request last transmission. Yeah, if you mess up on pilot to ATC, go back to the last transmission um, and then use the say it feature, because once it gets out of its computer loop, it's easy to get lost. Cessna 12 Bravo, contact Bradley approach on 123.9 or 5. One, two, three, nine, five. Sorry, I talked to myself. I photograph, I talk to myself too. Cessna 12 Bravo at 4,500. Yeah, if it gets out of the, if you get off and you accidentally jump ahead on a frequency, or you don't do your read back and you forget to do your read back and you move up to the next frequency, it's still kind of stuck on the previous frequency. So then I'm like, oh, where was I? I got to go back to um, the previous frequency and then try to catch up pilot to ATC. So when I've done pattern work and I've forgotten to call my final, just before I get to the runway, I'll say I'm turning final, even though I'm getting ready to land, and try to get it to loop back in. Yeah, I try not to answer myself too much. Oh, I just hit the my mute button here. All right, let's see. I was calling Bradley Tower. That's what I was doing. I was there. I'm expecting runway 24. So that's when I go to Sky Vector. So I'll look up Bradley airport diagram. So 24 is kind of, it's almost coming in towards the west, north. In trying to judge like exactly what a left downwind is, that's been like a tricky thing to understand too. So I'm back to my map here. So runway 24 is this one. So my approach is going to put me coming up from the south. And so just before runway 33, I don't know exactly what the computer is going to tell me, if it's going to give me coordinates to come in because I'm VFR, if it's just going to say turn to heading so and so. That part I'm still learning, so you're going to learn it with me. But basically what I do, if it doesn't, as I come up this way, I'm going to turn this way, and this will be my left downwind. So I'll be entering the downwind pretty correctly at like a 45-degree angle. Turn base, turn final. So probably 6 minutes. I'll hit that Hartford VOR, and then it's another 10 minutes. I'll probably ask to start my descent. Again, I think it's the thing with all the lines on it, the E6B. I think there's a way that you can calculate your rate of descent. I know that 500 feet a minute, I need, so many minutes. So I might start my descent somewhere. just outside. I tend to be a little bit like I guess nervous or shy about hitting the runway the first time and not having to do a go around. Uh, this computer, I bought a CyberPower PC. It's got a 1080 graphics card. It's an i6700, slightly overclocked to I think 4.4. Currently, it's reading 36 frames, and that's running Pilot to ATC. And also, I have my stuff cranked up pretty high. So that's where my settings are. Go visual is max. I don't even, this really this maximum thing just makes the blacks a little bit blacker. I think that's all it does. So do I really need it? Probably not. Um, this is a pretty big jump. If you go from 2 to 4 times, that usually hits the frames like 10. Yeah, see that dropped them down to the low 30. It's mid to low 30s. Once I come in for landing, um, or once I go over the city of Hartford, the frames will start to drop even more. Um, so typically I run 30 to 40 frames. Over the ocean, like around Block Island, Nantucket, I'm usually up in the 50s. Yeah, this one, it came with 32 gigs of RAM too. Yeah, so basically wanting to get back into flight simulators a lot. And so I have X-Plane 10 on my Mac, and then when 11 was coming out, my kids, I have 2 kids, um, they play all kinds of games. They're like, yeah, we need a gaming PC. And I'm like, yeah, you're right, we do. So that's how I wound up getting this one. Yeah, no, you got an awesome system. You'll have no problem running all this stuff. That, 1080 Ti is a super card. Yeah, one of the things I've been trying to press in some of the forums is like when we're talking about um, specs on computers and trying to make comparisons to systems, is that we all use the same airport at the same time of day, and you turn off pretty much all your add-ons or your plugins that are eating away at your frames. This way we all we're using like the same benchmark test. Because I had one guy who's like, oh, I'm getting 100 frames a second. I'm like, where are you flying? He's like, he was out in the middle of the desert somewhere. I'm like, yeah, no wonder why you're getting 100 frames a second. I go, why don't you go to like Seattle? It's one of the default heavily sceneried spots in the game. And he was down to like 40. I'm like, all right, so you're in the same spot. Yeah, you broke the bank in a good way. I think a laptop is going to be my winter Christmas present because when both of my kids are here, one sort of gets shut out. They do take turns, but one of them typically gets shut out for a while. So, laptop is my Christmas goal. Is the chatter too loud in the background? Yeah, I love the way the chatter is in the background. Basically, you go to liveatc.net, uh, and then you just save it. I think I save it to like just the main airport. I think I'm saving it under KBDL. You download tower ground, and then you plug it into the pilot to ATC in these configurations, in the configuration thing here. Under sounds. Okay, I mean, having a conversation and having this guy constantly talking in the background. I couldn't tell if it was driving you crazy or not. But that's where you put all the background audio. Made a big difference in the immersion. I think even just having that running in the background just adds to it. To me, that it's almost worth the price of the program to have like real noise in the background. Yeah, that part's pretty easy to set up. Actually, I can probably even show you after. Well, we'll be landing in it pretty soon. I might have to listen for the air traffic controller. But I reloaded new sounds tonight. I had the same sounds going for since my initial or first or second time I loaded sound, so they've been in there for a while. So I kind of knew what they're all going to say before they say it. Uh, Also having the background noises indicates to me with Pilot to ATC that you're on like the right frequencies. If you don't hear anything for a long time, you might not be in the right frequency. My house is probably over up in here somewhere. Yeah, it's the chatter in the chatter in the ATC. Um, it actually has like radio static as part of the noise, and then the actual voices that talk back to you in Pilot to ATC, those are set up in a different spot, and then the ATC chatter is another setup. Some people they've bought custom voices apparently for all different parts of the air traffic system so that each one has its own defined person. I'm just using like the 3 default Windows guys. Yeah, the voices are set up in here. So I just tried to do, I just kind of rotated them. There's only 2 different voices that I have. I have Zyra and David. There is a place that you can buy more voices. I The name of the place escapes the top of my head. Getting pretty close. I might see if I can descend to 3,500 and see if that screws up Pilot to ATC. Or if there's something else. Sometimes I do use the speech assistant. So we're in. I want to request my approach. I'm going to ask for I'm going to see what it does if I ask for the VFR pattern entry.
Cessna 12 Bravo inbound 4,500 enter VFR pattern entry runway.
It didn't say 2-4. It might have. It's not. I'll have to ask for 2-4. Um, I don't know if you can add static to the actual voices. Be nice. Let's see if I can call this. Cessna 12 Bravo inbound at 4,500 for VFR pattern entry to runway 24. Alright, so I'm going to go down to start descending the pattern altitude. I'm going to do the read back first so I don't mess this up. So now I'll start my descent. I wonder if I can... Contact tower on 120.3, Cessna 12 Bravo. 120. See, I think the voice has just switched. The chattered voices. Cessna 12 Bravo at 4,500. Yeah, it looks like I'm going to enter on a left downwind. It didn't say to descend. I think I'm just going to descend. That's the city of Hartford over here out the left wing. So this is where I'm going to set my pattern altitude, which is 1,200. They said. Come on. Sometimes I have to pause this. 1,200. Arm. Gonna go down 800 feet a minute. Reduce the power. Go full mixture now. I'm gonna put on my landing light. I'm going to check my fuel selector to both. I'm going to tell everybody to put their seatbelts on, make sure the windows and doors are shut. And the only thing left on the pre-landing checklist would be to put the fuel pump on. That's the airport right there. I probably need to drop at way faster than this. So I'm dropping a ton of altitude pretty quick. Yeah, with the airport being here, I want to be at 1,200 as I enter the pattern, which is probably going to be right about at these trees. Somewhere in here, I would consider that being in the pattern. Yeah, to find the hula girl, you go to Calm 3. That toggles the hula girl on and off. Just had a big scenery load right there. Little frame drop. So you're getting close to the airport. I'm going to 20. I might need to like drop some of my settings down just a tiny bit. And that's what I think some people don't realize too, is that it's your frame rate is really so dependent upon what's running in the background, pilot to ATC, and how much scenery is being loaded. Yeah, the CPU is starting to work harder. So I'm probably, I'm at about 110. If I needed to, I could deploy the flaps, but I think I'm coming in at a good rate and a good airspeed. So technically, I think be scanning the airspace, seeing where other planes are, if they're in the pattern, coming from your right. There's some airports on our right. So I'll probably just hand fly it in from here. Fuel pump on. Autopilot off. I have the plane. I'm going to follow this road right here. It said runway 24, so what is a great thing to do, you put your heading bug on the runway that you're landing at. Do this without crashing. Good. Actually, 24 is this way. I'm a little bit below pattern altitude now, messing with the heading bug. So now I'm parallel to the runway right here. That's the one we're going to be landing on. Straighten out. Holding altitude pretty well. Could probably gain a little airspeed. So we're watching, so when you get a beam of the numbers, when you get to the piano keys, as I usually call them, that's typically when you go drop your first notch of flaps. Losing a little too much airspeed here. So we're pretty close to being a beam of the numbers. The airplane balloons a little bit. So then I'm going to try to pick out a mark. Runway comes up here. I'm going to cross up in here somewhere. So I want to be up towards that brown spot. So now I'm in my left downwind. Airplane's nice and stable. First notch of flaps are in. It's trimmed out pretty nicely. We're not really gaining. Gaining a little bit. We can actually start to lose here. I'll lower the nose a little bit. So the 2-4 means that we're exactly like perpendicular to the runway. So when it gets to be about 7 o'clock off your tail, you turn to your base leg. We're a little wide of what would be the pattern we technically would probably want to be closer to like flying over that white building. Every time I look with the yoke, like every time I flick a switch, it tends to migrate. Yeah, the heading bug, learn from somebody else. Same thing when you're doing pattern work. You put the heading bug on your runway heading when you take off, and then you just fly it in 15 like quarter increments. And so I'm going to wait for the 2-4. We'll be at the 9 o'clock position. That's when I'll know I'm like, the runway will be out on the left. So So now we can really start. Because we were wide on the pattern, I let the altitude stay a little high. We have a lot of time to drop. Got to try to come in around 70. Probably going to make my turn right for this thing. Looks like that'd be about right. And then when you make it all correct, when your runway heading gets to the top, the runway should be right in front of you. I've only flown a little bit at night, mostly to experiment. I'm still trying to learn how to fly during the day. I think once I know this stuff, yeah. See, I came up. I was actually a little bit short on the turn. My turn to final. Airspeed starting to drop a little bit. No, you can't see too much. Basically, honestly, I use the GPS to get me around at night. I'm trying to learn how to use the ILS, the Instrument Landing System. That will help, line you up with the runway and stuff. These little lights over here, these are called the PAPI lights. You want 2 red and 2 white. That's how you know in your glide slope. 4 red, I'm dead, I'm too low. So you just kind of let gain a little bit of altitude. Okay, I got 1 light in the PAPI. I'm still a little bit low. It's alright, we're in a Cessna. It's forgiving. 2 lights. Now I'll reduce the throttle a little bit. This is theoretically the perfect 3-degree glide slope. Going to throw another notch of flaps, coming in a little bit fast now. That's the inner marker, that loud beeping. Alright, round off. Look down the runway. Flare, flare, flare. And I'm on. Yeah, there's another system, it's called the VASI system. It's very similar, but they're vertical rather than horizontal across. And those they're set up at a 3-degree angle so that when you're in the correct thing, they line up for your eyes. They don't move them, but it just somehow the way the reflectors and the stuff is dialed in, that's how you know. Let's see. So what we do here, we hold short. I'll say I'm clear of the runway. Cessna 12 Bravo, clear of runway 24. See, I think it was supposed to do some more. Was supposed to say something else earlier. I wonder if I should tell it if I was on the visual. Cessna 12 Bravo, runway in sight. Yeah, see, this is where it kind of glitched out. Or I didn't say something the way what it expected me to say. Thus, it's not letting me get to the ground. Cessna 12 Bravo, turning final, runway 24. I'll see if I can catch it up. No. Well, the important thing is we got it on the ground. Usually what happens is once you I don't know if I missed a command. I must have missed a command when I was maybe after I entered the downwind. I was supposed to say something. That's part of that, the experimentation part. And then once you clear the active, then it usually tells you to switch over to the ground, and then it gives you taxi instructions to the gate. Um, there probably is a way, but it's probably like with a coach. Dave, the developer, he might have an answer for it. He might say, "Oh yeah, when you enter your downwind, you should say entering left downwind." Uh, but that's one of the pieces that I'm missing. Um, I don't have a. I guess I'm not a driven like have to know everything at once. I'm just really trying. I just kind of take it for what it is and just take my time and figure out those pieces. As frustrating as it is sometimes, um, I have no like really timetable to learn everything. I figured it's kind of like a lifetime study, so I'll just kind of figure it out as it goes. So I am here at my destination, and then how I usually shut down. I usually do brake, uh, clean up the aircraft. I'll turn off the fuel pump. I'll turn off the strobe, nav, landing light. I'll shut off the master avionics. I turn off the mixture. Then I turn off the battery, the alternator, the key, pull the headset. Actually, it's a little quieter without the headset. But that's how I um, do my shutdown. Yeah, I think contacting Dave, he might be able to give me another clue on to what went wrong. But inst- um, I just deleted that guy. So that's um, how I fly X-plane currently. Like I said, it's an evolving thing. I don't know who that guy was. He was just spouting off a bunch of stuff of September 11th being an inside job, and that it was why weren't jets scrambled and thermite and conspiracy, and no idea who that is. So he got there's a little ban button in Twitch, so he just got the hammer. Yeah, send me your flight plan. I don't know like uh, how much I'll be able to help with it because I think a lot of I think it's trial and error, just looking at and just practicing and doing stuff. Um, I'm hoping to be expert level in I don't know a couple years. Yeah, thanks for coming and thanks for coming to watch. Hopefully you learned a little bit of something about it, just kind of the same way I've been learning from different people. Um, the more you study it, the it sort of gets clearer, but then you get more questions, so then it gets muddier. That's why I don't have like a timetable, and that's why like when it pilot to ATC, when I miss something that it should be expecting, and it doesn't get it. Um, I'll just practice it again at another time. Yeah, send along the flight plan to my email. I'll take a look at it. And then, like I said, I think uncertified pilot he's got the nicest demeanor, um, the easiest sounding, like how he approaches stuff, um, makes it easy to listen to. You can see why his stream's really successful. Hey, I consider it a success because I wanted to enter in a left downwind, and I came in with the right approach, and I got the left downwind. And though I made my turn to final a little bit short, I was pretty happy with it. All right, I'm gonna go watch some football. Um, Watch some guys knock their heads together. Awesome. Well, fair for you to envy. Thanks for stopping by my stream, and I'll catch you at the next one. And I'll take a look at your flight plan, and if I have anything constructive to add to it, I will. And I'll let you know that at least that I read it. So have a great night. Got to find my OBS off button here. It's under this pile of here it is, under this pile of windows. Stop streaming. Have a good night.